What is up, my friends? Dale Carlson here, and I'm excited you decided to join me on another video. Today, I'm hanging out in Singapore, and we're gonna talk about what to do when you're too busy to actually do the things you wanna do. Let's do this. I have a confession. Before I learned how to stop being exhausted by how busy I was the kind of person who was so busy all the time that I would literally schedule appointments with my friends 3 weeks out in my calendar. Or I would struggle to find time to do really basic things like cook myself dinner and do my laundry. It was bad. I had this really full schedule and I would tell myself that it was a good thing, but day in and day out, I was exhausted and it felt like I didn't have any control of my life. It was almost as if my life was controlled by all these things that I had to do. What I've learned is that I can actually have a full schedule without being exhausted if I do it right. I just have to make sure that I'm being intentional, and I have a few tips to share with you on how you can do the same. But first, while traveling around, I'm making these videos and I'm doing other work to make money. It can get really busy for me. So I decided to take a break to explore Singapore. The architecture here is amazing and it is completely decked out for Christmas. But why tell you when I can show you? Check this out. Wasn't that amazing? I love being able to travel and have control over my life like this. But like I said before, it takes being really intentional. So let's jump into some of these tips to help you make it happen. When I was really busy and I was exhausted all the time, I realized that it was an indicator of one of 3 things likely happening. Number 1, I wasn't actually being productive. I think so many times we use being busy as an excuse when the reality is we're not actually busy. We just have things that fill up our life that we're not doing anything about to change. They're things that we might not want to do, and they're not necessarily bad things. They're just taking up our time. So what I realized is I wasn't actually being productive. I wasn't doing things that were causing me to be busy in a good way. I was just using it as an excuse. Oh, I'm too busy for this. I'm too busy for that. Oftentimes it was an excuse that I told myself, so I wouldn't have to figure out the things that I actually wanted to do. I wouldn't have to actually create a plan with my life. Or I would use it as an excuse with people. If I was hanging out with some people and I got really bored, or I didn't realize how long we were actually gonna be hanging out, I would just say, oh, I gotta go, I'm really busy. And the reality is I could have just told the truth. I don't have to say, I gotta get up really early tomorrow. I can say, I'm ready to leave. This was really fun. I enjoyed the time that we had. And that's okay. And if I was using it as an excuse with myself, I had to realize, okay, pause, hit the brakes here. Let's figure out if we're actually being productive. Am I actually doing the things that I want to be doing? Or am I caught in this rut of busyness? And I really had to stop and reflect on that. And it's not that all my time had to be spent doing something productive, but the reality is, as people, we thrive when we're being productive towards the goals that we have, or the people we care about, or the causes that we want to support. And that leads us to number 2, which is if I was really exhausted by being so busy, The second thing was that I had to realize that my priorities might be out of order. I think it's easy to get caught up in all these things that we have to do and just not questioning them, just saying, hey, this is what we gotta do. Let's go and do this thing. It's on our schedule, it's on our calendar. We have these expectations other people have of us. These are the things that we need to be doing. It's easy to get caught up in that instead of saying, are these the things that I actually want to be doing? Are these the things that actually make me feel fulfilled? Are these the things that are priorities in my life? I had to sit down and reflect on what is actually a priority. Am I gonna make work a priority, or am I gonna make relationships a priority? Am I gonna make free time a priority, or am I gonna make healthy eating and exercise a priority? And then when I felt myself being exhausted, when my schedule got too busy, I could look at it and say, are the things that I'm doing with the majority of my time the things that I said I would focus on, the things that I said I would make a priority? And from there, I just had to recalibrate. I just had to readjust. I had to refocus. And I had to learn to say no to the things that weren't on that list for me, the things that I didn't have time for because I was making time for other things that were more important to me. And it is okay to say no. It really is. It's okay. It's okay. Well, it's mostly okay to say no. When it's not really that great to say no is when we get to number 3. The third realization in figuring out how to not be so exhausted and not be so busy is realizing that I had to practice self-care. I had to make sure that the food that I was putting in my body was healthy. I had to make sure that I was exercising. I had to make sure that I was getting adequate amounts of sleep every single night. I had to make sure that I was taking time for me and that me time was a priority. And I could spend that time however I wanted to. I could spend it by myself, reflecting and goal setting, or I could spend it with other people. That's one way that I get recharged, is being around other people. So if I wasn't around my friends enough, I realized that I was getting really exhausted. And the reason self-care is so important is because we operate better when we take care of ourselves. It's the airplane rule. When you fly in an airplane and they give you instructions before takeoff, they talk about the oxygen masks that fall down from the ceiling. One of the things they tell you is that you should put your own mask on first before assisting any children or anybody that's under your care. The reason for this is when cabin pressure drops, the oxygen that's available to you there also drops. And that means at certain altitudes, you can pass out in a matter of seconds. So while you're helping someone else get their mask on, you could pass out, and that's bad for both of you. So if you put your own mask on first, even if the person that you're assisting ends up passing out, you put their oxygen mask on and they'll regain consciousness. So both you and the people around you are better off when you take care of yourself. What it really boils down to is this. When you realize that you're in control of what you do with your life, you get to choose how you spend your time. This helps clarify priorities in your life. So rather than saying you're too busy for this or too busy for that, you get to communicate the expectations and practice saying no so that way you don't get overloaded. You already have enough margin where you can go back to a stable balance in your life. That's it for today, everyone. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if that's a thing that you're into, and I will see you in the next video.